The spring sun hung high in the sky, spilling warm light over the quiet neighborhood. A soft breeze rustled the trees, carrying the sweet scent of blooming lilacs through the air. In the backyard of a small white house, 5-year-old Lily Carter rolled her wheelchair across the grass, her tiny hands gripping the wheels. Her curly brown hair danced in the wind, and her green eyes sparkled like little emeralds. Lily couldn't walk. Her legs didn't work since she was born, but that never dimmed her spirit. She clutched her stuffed bunny, Mr. Flops, tight against her chest, its floppy ears brushing her fingers. She was a chatterbox, always bubbling with stories. "Mr. Flops, the dragon's coming," she'd say, her voice bright as she spun tales of princesses and brave knights. That afternoon, she hummed a little tune, lost in her own happy world. Inside, Sarah Carter stood at the kitchen window, watching her daughter with a soft smile. The smell of chicken soup filled the room as she stirred the pot on the stove. Steam fogged the glass, but she could still see Lily's wheelchair rolling back and forth. Sarah's heart felt full. Her husband, David, would be home from his job at the hardware store in a couple of hours. She pictured them all around the table later, Lily giggling, David teasing her about eating her carrots. It was a perfect day, the kind where nothing bad could happen. Or so she thought. At 3:42 p.m., the phone rang, shrill and sharp. Sarah wiped her hands on a towel and glanced at the screen. Her sister, calling from out of town. "Just a quick chat," she muttered, stepping into the living room to answer. "Hey, Lisa, what's up?" she said, her voice light. She peeked out the window as she talked, keeping half an eye on Lily. The little girl was still there, spinning her chair in slow circles, talking to Mr. Flops. Everything seemed fine. For minutes. That's all it took. Outside, a black van rolled up to the curb, its engine humming low. The side door slid open just a crack, and a man stepped out. He was tall, with dark hair and a smile that didn't reach his eyes. He wore a plain gray jacket, the kind nobody would notice. In his hand, he held a small bag of candy, the wrappers crinkling as he walked toward the backyard gate. It creaked open, and he stepped through, his boots quiet on the grass. "Hey, little girl," he called, his voice smooth like honey. "I've got candy. And guess what? There's kittens in my van, cute ones. Wanna see?" Lily stopped rolling. Her humming faded. She stared at the man, her small hands freezing on the wheelchair's rims. Something about him made her tummy twist. She didn't move, didn't speak, just watched him with wide, unblinking eyes. The man crouched down, still smiling, and reached out. "Come on, they're special kittens. They need a nice girl like you to play with them." Across the street, Martha Jones shuffled along the sidewalk, her little terrier, Biscuit, tugging at his leash. Martha was old, with gray hair and sharp eyes that missed nothing. She'd lived in this neighborhood for 40 years, and she knew every face. This man wasn't one of them. She saw him kneel by Lily, saw the van with its door ajar. Her heart skipped. "Hey," she shouted, her voice rough but strong. "Get away from that child." The man's head snapped up. His smile vanished, replaced by a cold, hard look. He grabbed Lily's arm, his fingers digging into her skin. She didn't scream. She couldn't. Fear locked her voice away, her body stiff in the chair. But then Martha yelled again, louder, "Let her go." Biscuit barked, high and frantic. The man hesitated, his grip loosening for just a second. That was enough. Lily yanked her arm free and rolled her chair back, her wheels bumping over the grass. Sarah dropped the phone mid-sentence. Her sister's voice, "You still there?" cut off as it hit the floor. A chill raced down Sarah's spine, some deep instinct screaming. She bolted to the window and saw the man, the van, Lily trembling in her chair. "Lily," she cried, her voice slicing through the air. She ran outside, her feet pounding the porch steps, just as the man darted back to his van. Tires screeched as he peeled away, leaving black marks on the road. Martha waved her arms, shouting, "I got part of the plate." "YKZ." Sarah reached Lily and scooped her out of the wheelchair, clutching her tight. "Oh, baby, you're okay, you're okay," she whispered, her heart hammering against her ribs. Lily's small body shook, her face buried in Sarah's shoulder. She didn't cry. She didn't say a word. She just clung to her mom, her tiny hands gripping Sarah's shirt like it was the only thing keeping her safe. Minutes later, sirens wailed. Police cars pulled up, lights flashing. Detective Jake Miller stepped out, a tall man with graying hair and tired brown eyes. He'd seen too many cases like this. Kids gone in a blink, families broken. He knelt by Lily, his voice gentle. "Hey, sweetheart, can you tell me what he looked like?" Silence. Lily stared at the ground, her fingers twisting Mr. Flop's ears. Sarah brushed her daughter's hair back, tears in her eyes. "She hasn't said anything since it happened. Not a word." Jake frowned and turned to Martha. "What did you see?" The old woman straightened up. "Tall guy, dark hair, gray jacket. Black van. I got YKZ off the plate before he took off." Jake scribbled it in his notebook, his jaw tight. "He fits the pattern," he muttered to his partner. 4 kids missing in the last year, all lured near their homes. Candy, kittens, promises. This one got lucky. Sarah held Lily closer, her voice shaking. "Lucky? She won't talk, Jake. She's gone quiet." Jake sighed, rubbing his neck. "Could be shock. Trauma does that sometimes." He looked at Lily, her bright eyes dull now, like someone had turned off her light. The chatterbox was gone, locked away by fear. And as the sun dipped below the trees, casting long shadows over the yard, Sarah knew nothing would be ordinary again. The days after the attack blurred into a quiet nightmare for the Carter family. The little white house, once full of Lily's chatter and laughter, felt empty now. She didn't talk anymore, not a single word. The 5-year-old sat in her wheelchair by the living room window, staring outside with dull green eyes. Her stuffed bunny, Mr. Flops, stayed clutched in her lap, but she didn't play with him. She didn't draw her colorful dragon pictures or ask for bedtime stories. She just sat there, silent and still, like a light had gone out inside her. Sarah and David tried everything. Sarah sang Lily's favorite songs, her voice cracking as she watched her daughter's blank face. David brought home her favorite chocolate chip cookies, but Lily only picked at them. At night, she barely slept. When she did, she'd wake up thrashing in her bed, her small body fighting invisible hands. No screams, just gasps and whimpers that broke her parents' hearts. Sarah would rush in, holding her tight, whispering, "You're safe, baby, you're safe." But Lily's silence grew heavier every day. One evening, Sarah sat at the kitchen table, her eyes red from crying. David slumped across from her, running a tired hand through his messy hair. "She's slipping away," Sarah said, her voice barely a whisper. "Our little girl, she's not herself anymore." David stared at the floor. "The therapist called today, said we should try a support animal. A therapy dog." Sarah frowned, twisting her fingers together. "A dog? You think that'll help?" David shrugged. "I don't know, but we've got nothing left to try." The next morning, they drove to Dr. Ellen Parker's Animal Therapy Center. It was a low brick building on the edge of town, surrounded by a grassy field. Inside, the air smelled of clean fur and antiseptic, like a mix of a vet's office and a home. Dr. Parker met them at the door, a kind woman with short gray hair and warm brown eyes. "Come in," she said, smiling gently. "I've got someone special for Lily to meet." Sarah pushed Lily's wheelchair inside, David close behind. Lily didn't look up, her hands resting limp on Mr. Flops. In the center of the room, on a big round bed, sat Max. He was a pit bull, stocky and strong, with a short tin coat and a long, jagged scar running down his back. His dark eyes followed them as they walked in, calm but sharp. He didn't wag his tail or jump up. He just watched, his ears perked forward. Dr. Parker knelt beside Lily's chair. "Hi, Lily," she said softly. "This is Max. He's a very special dog. He used to help police catch bad guys, but he got hurt, so now he helps kids who've been through scary things. Like you." Lily didn't move. Her eyes stayed on her lap. Sarah bit her lip, her hands tight on the wheelchair handles. Dr. Parker kept going. "Max has a scar, see? He got it saving a policeman from a knife. He's brave, just like the knights in your storybooks." She glanced at Sarah, who'd mentioned Lily's love for fairy tales. "He won't come close unless you want him to. He'll wait right there. But if you're ready, you can put out your hand." For a long moment, nothing happened. The room was quiet except for the tick of a clock on the wall. Then, slowly, Lily's head lifted. Her green eyes flickered to Max. He sat still, his big head tilted slightly, watching her back. Inch by inch, her small hand rose from Mr. Flop's fur. It trembled, hovering in the air. Dr. Parker nodded at Max. "Okay, boy. Slow." Max stood, his muscles rippling under his coat. He took one careful step, then another, his nails clicking softly on the tile. When he reached Lily, he stopped, his warm breath brushing her fingers. She hesitated, then her hand dropped, touching his broad head. Her fingers sank into his fur, feeling the steady heat of him. Max didn't flinch. He just stood there, solid as a rock. Sarah gasped, pressing a hand to her mouth. Tears welled up as she whispered, "Oh, baby." It was the first time Lily had reached for anything since that awful day. David squeezed Sarah's shoulder, his throat tight. Lily's fingers curled deeper into Max's fur, gripping him like he was an anchor in a storm. She didn't say anything, but her shoulders relaxed a little, like some heavy weight had lifted. Dr. Parker smiled. "That's a good girl, Lily. Max likes you." She stood up, turning to Sarah and David. "He's yours if you want him. He's retired from police work, but he's got a sharp mind and a big heart. I think he could help her." Sarah nodded fast, wiping her eyes. "Yes, please." That night, Max came home with them. He padded into the house, his scarred back catching the light. Lily stayed close, her wheelchair rolling beside him. When she sat by the window, Max lay at her feet, his head resting near her wheels. Hours passed, and she didn't let go of him. Her tiny hand stayed buried in his fur. That night, when the nightmares came, Max climbed onto her bed. He pressed his heavy body against her, his steady breathing calming her gasps. For the first time in weeks, she slept through till morning. A few days later, Sarah sat on the living room floor, watching Lily trace Max's scar with her fingers. The pit bull lay still, his eyes half closed. Suddenly, a tiny whisper broke the silence. "Good boy." Sarah's head snapped up. Lily stared at Max, her lips parted like she'd surprised herself. Tears spilled down Sarah's cheeks as she crawled over, pulling Lily into a hug. "Oh, honey," she choked out. It wasn't much, just 2 words, but it was a start. Dr. Parker had been right. Max could hear what Lily couldn't say, and in that quiet bond, something began to shift. The little girl who'd lost her voice was finding it again, one whisper at a time. Neither Sarah nor David knew it yet, but Max was about to become more than a helper. He was about to become a hero. Months passed, and the little white house grew quieter, but not empty anymore. Lily still didn't talk much, just soft whispers to Max, her pit bull, who never left her side. The 5-year-old rolled her wheelchair through the rooms, her tiny hand often resting on his scarred back. Max's steady presence brought her back, bit by bit. She started drawing again, crayon sketches of a girl in a chair and a big tin dog standing together. Sarah and David watched with fragile hope, clinging to every small sign their daughter was healing. But the shadow of that spring day lingered, and soon, it pulled them into a courtroom. The trial started on a gray morning, the air thick with tension. The courthouse was old, with tall wooden doors and rows of hard benches packed with people, reporters, neighbors, strangers whispering about the case. At the center sat James Porter, a 45-year-old mechanic with short dark hair and a blank face. He wore a cheap suit, his hands folded calmly on the defense table. To look at him, you'd never guess he was accused of trying to kidnap Lily. No one had solid proof, just Martha Jones' story and a partial license plate, YKZ, tying his black van to that day. Everything hung on Lily, the only witness. But could a silent girl in a wheelchair make a jury believe her? Sarah pushed Lily's wheelchair through the heavy doors, her heart pounding. Lily gripped Max's leash tight, her knuckles white. The pit bull walked beside her, his stocky body alert, his dark eyes scanning the room. Every head turned as they entered. Some people murmured, about the little girl, about the scarred dog with her. At the front, Judge Henry Brooks sat high on the bench, his gray hair neat under his black robe. He'd been a judge for 20 years, his sharp blue eyes missing nothing. He'd ruled Max could stay, Lily needed him, but not everyone liked it. "All rise," a bailiff called, voice booming. The room stood as Judge Brooks settled in. "Be seated," he said, his tone firm. "Before we start, we'll hear about the dog." Paul Evans, Porter's lawyer, stood fast, adjusting his tie. "Your Honor," he began, smooth and loud. "We get that the girl's been through something. But this pit bull, big, scarred, growling, it's a problem. The jury will feel scared or sorry, not fair. It'll hurt my client. We ask the dog be removed." Anna Reed, the prosecutor, shot up. Her dark hair was pulled back, her face set. "Your Honor, Lily Carter is 5 years old. She's in a wheelchair and has selective mutism from trauma. Max isn't here to look tough. He's her support. Without him, she can't do this. The doctor's papers prove it. Judge Brooks leaned back, his expression hard to read. I've seen the reports, he said. The dog stays. A ripple of whispers spread, some nods, some grumbles. Evans sat down, his lips tight, glancing at Porter, who didn't blink. The trial kicked off. Anna Reed told the jury a chilling story. James Porter wasn't just a mechanic. He was a predator, stalking kids, luring them with candy and lies. She called Martha Jones to the stand. The old woman shuffled up, her hands shaky but her voice steady. I saw him, she said, pointing at Porter. That day in the yard, he grabbed Lily's arm. I yelled, and he ran to his van. Black, with YKZ on the plate. The jury listened, faces grim. Porter sat still, his fingers tapping the table, calm as ever. Then it was Lily's turn. Sarah walked her to the witness stand, lifting her from the wheelchair to the big wooden chair. Lily looked tiny up there, her green eyes wide, Max sitting close below. Sarah stepped back, her hands clenched, wanting to pull her daughter away from this. Anna approached slow, her voice soft. Hi, Lily, she said, smiling. I know this is scary. You don't have to talk if you don't want. Just nod or shake your head, okay? And if you need a break, tell us. Lily stared at the table, breathing fast. Max pressed his body against the stand, his warmth steadying her. She gave a tiny nod. Good, Anna said. Lily, can you tell us who was in your yard that day? Silence stretched. Lily didn't lift her head. Then, slow as a shadow, her arm rose. Her small finger pointed straight at James Porter. The room went still. Porter's face didn't change, but his eyes flickered, just a twitch. Evans jumped up. Objection. She's seen his picture 100 times. She's coached. Judge Brooks raised a hand. Overruled. The jury decides if she's sure. Anna kept going. Did he say anything to you, Lily? No words came. Instead, Lily's fingers twitched, a subtle move, a secret signal from therapy. Max caught it. His ears snapped up, his muscles tensed. A low growl rumbled from his chest, deep and warning. His dark eyes locked on Porter, unblinking. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Even Judge Brooks sat forward, his brow creasing. Evans stood again, sharper now. Your Honor, this is a show. The dog's trained to do this. But Brooks wasn't listening. He watched Max, then Lily, then Porter. Something clicked. Miss Reed, he said, voice low, has this dog met the defendant before? Anna blinked. Not that I know, Your Honor. Brooks turned to Porter. Mr. Porter, you ever seen this dog? Porter's tapping fingers froze. He said nothing, but a bead of sweat slid down his neck. Anna's eyes widened. She whispered to her team, and someone ran out of the room. Evans snapped. What's happening? Anna faced the judge. Your Honor, I need a short recess. We might have new evidence. Brooks studied her, then nodded. 15 minutes. The gavel cracked like thunder. People poured out, buzzing with questions. Had Max recognized Porter? How? Judge Brooks stayed seated, his mind racing. He didn't believe in luck. Something told him that scarred pit bull had just cracked the case wide open. The courtroom recess stretched into a restless hum outside, but inside the prosecution's small office, things moved fast. Anna Reed hunched over a table, her team flipping through papers. The dirt from James Porter's van, gritty, reddish soil, had been tested overnight. It matched a spot in the northern woods, miles from town. A lonely cabin sat there, abandoned, or so people thought. Detective Jake Miller paced near the door, his gray eyes sharp. If that dirt's a lead, we're going now, he said, voice low. And we're taking the dog. Anna nodded. Max spooked Porter. He knows something. By noon, a team of officers piled into cars, headlights cutting through the crisp autumn air. Max rode with Jake, his scarred pit bull body tense in the back seat. Lily stayed behind with Sarah, safe but shaken after the courtroom. The drive wound through thick trees, the road turning to gravel, then dirt. The cabin came into view, an old wooden shack, sagging under mossy shingles. Silence hung heavy, broken only by the wind whispering through the pines. Faint footprints marked the porch, fresh enough to raise Jake's hackles. Max jumped out first, ears up, nose twitching. He paced the yard, then froze at the cabin's door. A low growl rumbled from his chest, his tan fur bristling. Jake gripped his gun. This place is wrong, he muttered. He feels it. The team fanned out, boots crunching leaves. Inside, The cabin looked bare. A rickety table, a dusty cot, a stack of empty soup cans. But Jake's eyes caught something. A seam in the wooden floor, too neat to be natural. He tapped it with his boot. "Hello. There's a basement," he said, waving the others over. They pried the boards up with a crowbar, with splintering. A narrow staircase spiraled down into darkness, the air turning cold and damp. Max strained at his leash, whining, pulling Jake forward. Flashlights sliced through the gloom as they descended. The sight below stopped them cold. A tiny room, concrete walls, no windows. Scattered across the floor were kids' things. Old toys, a torn teddy bear, a pair of small sneakers. In the corner, a faded pink backpack. And then, against the far wall, a girl. She was chained to a pipe, her thin arms trembling. Her blonde hair hung limp, her clothes ragged. Emma Gray, 8 years old, missing for 6 months. Alive. "Help," she whispered, her voice hoarse, barely there. Max lunged forward, whining louder, his paws scraping the floor. Jake dropped to his knees, fumbling with the chains. "You're safe now, Emma," he said, his gruff voice soft. "We've got you." He unlocked her, scooping her frail body into his arms. She clung to him, tears streaking her dirty face. Max pressed close, nudging her hand with his nose. The officers stood silent, jaws tight, as they carried her up into the light. The cabin wasn't empty anymore. It was a tomb of secrets, and Emma was the key. Back at the courthouse the next day, word of Emma's rescue spread like wildfire. The gallery overflowed, people cramming in to see the end of James Porter's trial. Anna Reed stood tall, her dark eyes blazing as she faced Judge Henry Brooks. "Your Honor," she said, "we've got new evidence. Soil from the defendant's van matches a cabin where we found Emma Gray, kidnapped 6 months ago. She was chained in a basement. Tire tracks outside match his vehicle. His DNA's on the chains." Porter sat at the defense table, his calm mask cracking. Sweat beaded on his forehead, his hands gripping the wood. Paul Evans, his lawyer, leaned in, whispering fast, but Porter's eyes darted to the gallery, then to the front, where Lily sat with Max. Anna kept going, her voice cutting sharp. "Emma's alive, Mr. Porter. She can testify. How do you explain a missing girl locked in a basement tied to you?" The room held its breath. Porter stammered, I don't know what you're talking about." But his voice shook, and his fingers twitched. Then Max moved. The pit bull lifted his head from Lily's feet, his hackles rising. A deep growl rolled out, louder this time, his dark eyes boring into Porter. He took slow steps forward, deliberate, like a hunter locking on prey. Everyone saw it. Porter flinched, shrinking back in his chair. His cool act shattered. Anna seized the moment. "Your Honor," the dog recognizes him. Max was a police K9. He knows a threat when he sees one. Evans shot up. "This is ridiculous. It's a dog, not a witness." But Judge Brooks raised a hand, his gaze darkening as he watched Porter. The man's smug tapping had stopped. He turned to Evans, muttering something frantic, his face pale. Then, in a whisper that carried through the silence, he said, "I want to change my plea." Gasps erupted. Judge Brooks leaned forward. "Mr. Porter, are you saying you want to plead guilty?" Porter exhaled, shaky, his shoulders slumping. "Yes." The courtroom exploded, shouts, sobs, reporters scribbling. Evans sank into his seat, stunned. Anna stood still, her fists clenched in quiet victory. Judge Brooks banged his gavel, voice steady. Court adjourned. Sentencing tomorrow. Later that night, the news hit every TV and paper. James Porter, guilty, locked away for life with no parole. He'd confessed to Lily's attack, Emma's kidnapping, and more. Cases stretching back years. Families wept with relief, a monster was gone. But in the courthouse, as people filed out, Jake Miller lingered by the door. He looked at Max, lying at Lily's feet, and shook his head. "That dog knew," he said to Anna. He saw right through him. Anna nodded, her eyes on Lily. "He's not the only hero here." The trial was over, but the story wasn't. A little girl and her pit bull had faced the dark, and won. Tomorrow, the world would cheer them. Tonight, they rested, a bond stronger than fear holding them together. The morning after James Porter's guilty plea, the little white house felt different. Sunlight streamed through the windows, soft and warm, chasing away the shadows that had lingered too long. Lily sat in her wheelchair by the kitchen table, her curly brown hair messy from sleep. Max lay at her feet, his scarred pit bull body sprawled across the floor, his snores rumbling like a quiet engine. Sarah moved around the kitchen, flipping pancakes, her hands steady for the first time in months. David sipped coffee, his tired eyes crinkling with a small smile. The silence wasn't heavy anymore, it was peaceful. Lily hadn't spoken much since the trial, but something had shifted. She didn't flinch at passing cars outside or shrink into herself when the phone rang. Her green eyes followed Max, brightening whenever he nudged her hand. That morning, as Sarah slid a pancake onto her plate, Lily reached down. Her small fingers brushed Max's broad head. She leaned close, her voice a whisper, soft but clear. "Thank you." Max's ears flicked up, and he wagged his tail, thumping it against the floor. Sarah froze, the spatula slipping from her hand. David choked on his coffee, coughing as tears sprang to his eyes. Sarah dropped to her knees beside Lily, pulling her into a hug. "Oh, baby," she whispered, her voice breaking. "You're back." Lily didn't say more, but she hugged her mom tight, her face pressed into Sarah's shoulder. David joined them, wrapping his arms around both, his rough hands trembling. They stayed like that for a long time, a family piecing itself together. Max sat up, resting his head on Lily's lap, his dark eyes warm. He didn't need words to know he'd helped bring her home. In the days that followed, Lily's voice grew stronger. She started small, naming colors as she drew with crayons, asking for juice instead of pointing. One afternoon, she sat on the living room floor, Max sprawled beside her. She traced his scar with a red crayon, giggling when he rolled onto his back, paws in the air. "Silly Max," she said, her laugh like music. Sarah watched from the couch, tears spilling again, but happy ones now. David grinned, snapping a photo with his phone. "She's our girl again," he said, voice thick. Not all the way, nightmares still crept in sometimes. But with Max there, Lily faced them, brave and steady. The world outside noticed, too. Newspapers splashed Lily and Max across the front pages. Girl and dog take down kidnapper. TV reporters camped on the lawn, calling them heroes. Strangers sent letters, some with drawings of pit bulls, others with thanks from parents whose kids Porter had hurt. One letter came from Emma Gray's family. "You saved her," it read. "We'll never forget." Sarah tucked it into a scrapbook, her hands shaking with pride. Back at the courthouse, Judge Henry Brooks sat in his office, the trials and still fresh. He flipped through the case file, his sharp blue eyes lingering on a photo of Lily and Max in the witness stand. He'd seen a lot in 20 years. Liars, crooks, broken families. But never a dog like Max, that pit bull knew, he muttered, shaking his head. "Knew before we did." He signed the last papers, sentencing Porter to life, and leaned back. A small smile tugged at his lips. Justice wasn't just his gavel this time. It was a scarred dog and a little girl in a wheelchair. Detective Jake Miller felt it, too. He stopped by the house one evening, his gray hair catching the porch light. Sarah invited him in, and he sat stiffly on the couch, watching Lily draw Max a crown in gold crayon. "She's tough," Jake said, his gruff voice soft. "And that dog, he's something else. Saved Emma, spooked Porter into confessing. Never seen anything like it." Lily looked up, shy but curious. She rolled her chair over and handed Jake the drawing. He took it, his throat tight. "Thanks, kid," he said. "You're the real hero here." Max wagged his tail, like he agreed. One quiet afternoon, Sarah sat Lily on the back porch, the same yard where it all started. The gate was locked now, the grass patched from summer wear. Lily held Mr. Flops in her lap, her wheelchair parked beside Max. She stared at the sky, then turned to her mom. "Max kept me safe," she said, her voice stronger than ever. Sarah nodded, brushing Lily's hair back. "He did, sweetheart. He always will." Lily smiled, a real, wide smile, and leaned down to hug Max's big head. He licked her cheek, his tail thumping. That night, the family gathered in the living room. David read a bedtime story, his voice rising and falling with silly dragon roars. Lily giggled, tucked under a blanket, Max's head on her lap. Sarah watched, her heart full. The world had turned dark that spring day, but light found its way back, through a little girl's courage and a pit bull's loyalty. Some bonds, she knew, could weather anything. As the story ended, Lily yawned, her eyes drooping. "Max is my knight," she murmured, half asleep. David chuckled, kissing her forehead. He sure is. Sarah dimmed the lights, and Max settled closer, his snores filling the quiet. Outside, stars blinked over the little white house, a silent promise. No matter how deep the darkness, there'd always be heroes, some with wheels, some with paws, ready to stand against it. Thanks so much for joining me on Lily and Max's incredible journey. I hope their story touched your heart as much as it did mine. If you love this tale of courage and loyalty, please hit that like button. It means the world to me. And don't forget to subscribe for more stories like this. I've got plenty more heroes, both big and small, waiting to be shared. Drop a comment below and tell me what you think. Did Max steal the show, or was Lily your favorite? Thanks again for being here, and I'll see you in the next one.